Have you ever wondered why certain patterns keep repeating in your life, no matter how hard you try to break free? Why the same wounds resurface, the same fears paralyze you, and the same invisible chains hold you back from the peace you desperately seek? The answer lies not in your present circumstances, but in a truth so profound that Paramahansa Yogananda dedicated his life to unveiling it. You are carrying the unresolved karma of your ancestors within the very fabric of your soul. This is not merely psychology or metaphor. This is the ancient science of reincarnation and karmic inheritance that determines whether you will remain trapped in cycles of suffering or finally step into the liberation that has always been your birthright. What Yogananda revealed through his divine communion with the infinite was this startling reality: your ancestors are not simply memories or genetic influences. They are living forces within your consciousness, their unfulfilled desires echoing through your thoughts, their unhealed traumas manifesting as your inexplicable anxieties, their spiritual debts becoming your obstacles. Until you understand this cosmic connection, until you grasp how the law of karma weaves through generations like an invisible thread binding soul to soul, you will continue treating symptoms while the root cause remains untouched. The masters knew this truth for thousands of years, and now you stand at the threshold of understanding why every meditation feels incomplete, why every effort at self-improvement feels like pushing against an unseen resistance, and why true healing has eluded you until this very moment. There is a profound mystery that Paramahansa Yogananda spent decades unveiling to those ready to receive it. The invisible threads of karma that bind you to your ancestors are not merely symbolic connections, but actual energetic currents flowing through the astral spine of your soul. When you find yourself inexplicably drawn to certain destructive behaviors, when you feel anxiety without apparent cause, when you sabotage your own happiness at the threshold of success, you are not witnessing your own weakness. You are experiencing the accumulated desires, fears, and unresolved actions of souls who came before you. Souls karmically connected to yours through the eternal law of cause and effect that governs all existence in this cosmic dream. Yogananda taught that karma is not punishment from an angry God, but rather the mathematical precision of divine justice operating through the principle of action and reaction. Your ancestors lived, desired, suffered, and departed this earthly plane without completing the spiritual lessons they incarnated to learn. Their unfulfilled yearnings did not dissolve into nothingness when their bodies returned to dust. Instead, these karmic seeds remained suspended in the causal realm, waiting for the perfect conditions to sprout again. When your soul chose to incarnate in your current family line, you inherited not only physical genes, but also these subtle karmic impressures, these samskaras that now express themselves as your seemingly inexplicable tendencies, phobias, talents, and obstacles. Most people spend their entire lives treating symptoms while remaining blind to the root cause of their suffering. They attend therapy sessions to discuss childhood trauma, take medications to numb emotional pain, change careers hoping external circumstances will bring inner peace, and enter relationship after relationship seeking fulfillment from another person. All of these efforts, while perhaps temporarily helpful, are like rearranging furniture in a burning house. The fire of ancestral karma continues to consume your peace from within, and until you address this fundamental reality, true healing will remain forever beyond your grasp. Yogananda revealed that the soul noble enough to recognize this truth stands at the doorway of liberation, while those who continue to blame parents, circumstances, or fate remain imprisoned in the endless cycle of suffering and rebirth. The ancient rishis who meditated in Himalayan caves for lifetimes discovered what modern psychology is only beginning to glimpse. You are not a blank slate born into this world. You arrive carrying the accumulated karma of countless past lives, and within that karmic bundle are the unresolved debts, desires, and lessons of those souls energetically connected to your lineage. When your great-grandfather harbored deep resentment that he never released, when your great-grandmother suppressed her authentic voice to conform to social expectations, When ancestors centuries ago committed acts of violence or greed without seeking redemption, these actions created karmic ripples that travel forward through time until someone possesses the spiritual strength to finally transmute them. This is why Yogananda emphasized with such urgency the importance of meditation, self-realization, and conscious spiritual practice. You are not merely improving yourself when you sit in silence and commune with the divine. You are performing a sacred act of ancestral healing that liberates not only your own soul but also the souls of those who came before you and those who will come after you. When you break the chains of ego consciousness and merge your awareness with the infinite, you dissolve karmic patterns that may have persisted through dozens of incarnations. This is the hidden power that has been waiting within you all along, the power that organized religion often obscures, but that true masters like Yogananda dedicated their lives to revealing. The law of karma that Yogananda explained is not abstract philosophy meant to be intellectually admired, but rather precise spiritual science that operates with the same consistency as gravity or thermodynamics. When you plant a seed of action motivated by egoistic desire, that seed must eventually produce a corresponding fruit. If your ancestor planted seeds of anger, attachment, fear, or greed, and departed before those karmic fruits could ripen, the cosmic law does not simply forget. The universe maintains perfect accounts, and those debts transfer to souls within the same karmic family until someone possesses the wisdom and spiritual power to settle them once and for all. This is not cruelty, but rather the benevolent mechanism through which the divine offers endless opportunities for souls to learn, grow, and ultimately return to conscious union with the source. Understanding this principle transforms how you perceive every challenge in your life. That chronic illness that doctors cannot explain may be the physical manifestation of an ancestor's suppressed emotions seeking release through your body. That irrational fear of water might be the memory of a past life drowning experienced by someone in your soul family. That compulsive need to accumulate wealth beyond what you could ever need might be the echo of an ancestor who died in poverty, their unfulfilled desire for security now expressing itself through your consciousness. Yogananda taught that once you develop the spiritual perception to see these connections, you stop being a victim of mysterious forces and become a conscious participant in your own liberation. The tragedy is that most human beings live their entire lives in what Yogananda called ego consciousness, mistakenly believing that their thoughts, desires, feelings, and reactions are uniquely their own. They say, "I want this" or "I fear that," without recognizing that the "I" they reference is largely a composite of karmic impressions from ancestors, past lives, environmental conditioning, and habitual patterns developed over many incarnations. The true self, the soul that is eternally one with God, lies buried beneath these layers of karmic accumulation like a diamond covered in mud. Every meditation session, every moment of selfless service, every act of love without expectation of return, washes away a bit more of that mud, until the diamond of your true nature finally shines forth in its original splendor. Yogananda often spoke of the difference between living mechanically and living consciously. The mechanical person reacts to life based on karmic programming, repeating the same patterns generation after generation, incarnation after incarnation, never questioning why they feel compelled to act in certain ways. When ancestral karma pushes them toward anger, they become angry. When it pulls them toward addiction, they become addicted. When it whispers that they are unworthy of love, they sabotage every relationship. They are not evil or weak, they are simply asleep, allowing karmic currents inherited from ancestors to flow through them unexamined and unchallenged. The awakened person, by contrast, observes these currents with detached awareness, recognizes them as inherited patterns rather than essential identity, and consciously chooses different responses aligned with soul wisdom rather than ego reaction. This awakening is precisely what your soul has been seeking through every failed attempt at healing, every book you have read hoping for answers, every desperate prayer uttered in moments of deepest despair. Your soul knows that surface-level solutions will never satisfy, because the wounds requiring attention exist in dimensions that conventional approaches cannot access. You need what Yogananda offered, direct communion with the divine through meditation, the cultivation of superconsciousness that transcends ordinary ego awareness, and the wisdom to recognize that healing your ancestors heals yourself, and healing yourself heals your ancestors across the eternal dimensions of time and space. The cosmic intelligence that governs all existence does not make mistakes, though from the limited perspective of ego consciousness, it often appears cruel and arbitrary. Why are you born into certain circumstances? Why do specific challenges plague your existence? Why does suffering seem randomly distributed, with some souls experiencing ease while others endure relentless hardship? Yogananda revealed that these apparent injustices dissolve once you comprehend the perfect mathematical precision of karmic law operating across multiple lifetimes. You incarnated exactly where your soul needed to be, with exactly the challenges required for your evolution, carrying exactly the ancestral karma that your spiritual strength has qualified you to finally resolve. Consider the profound courage this requires. Your soul, existing in the causal realm before this incarnation, surveyed the accumulated karma of your lineage and declared, "I am ready to bear this burden. I am strong enough to break these chains. I volunteer to be the one who finally transmutes these patterns and liberates this soul family from cycles of suffering that have persisted for generations." This is not punishment, but rather the ultimate act of spiritual heroism. You are not a victim randomly assigned difficult circumstances. You are a warrior soul who chose this specific battleground because you knew you possessed the divine potential to emerge victorious. Yet victory is impossible as long as you remain identified with ego consciousness, as long as you continue believing that you are merely this body, this personality, this collection of memories and conditioning. Yogananda taught that the ego is the ultimate prison, and ancestral karma is one of its most powerful chains. The ego looks at inherited patterns of fear, anger, addiction, or limitation and says, "This is who I am." It defends these patterns, justifies them, builds entire identities around them. It tells you stories about how your family has always struggled with depression, how your ancestors were all victims of circumstance, how you cannot help being the way you are because of genetics or upbringing or past trauma. These stories feel true because they are reinforced by generations of repetition, but they are lies. The truth that sets you free is this: you are not the ego, you are the eternal soul, the fragment of divine consciousness that temporarily inhabits a physical form, but whose essential nature is infinite, unchangeable, and forever free. The karma you carry belongs to the ego structure, to the false self that identifies with limitation. The moment you shift your identity from ego to soul, the moment you taste even briefly the superconscious state that meditation produces, you glimpse your true nature and recognize that all karmic chains are ultimately illusory. They have power only as long as you believe in them, only as long as you remain hypnotized by the cosmic dream that Yogananda called Maya. This is why the Master emphasized meditation with such passionate insistence. Meditation is not merely a relaxation technique or stress management tool. It is the scientific method for withdrawing energy and consciousness from identification with the body, senses, thoughts, and emotions, and redirecting that awareness inward to experience your true nature as soul. In the deep stillness of meditation, when the mind finally quiets and the ego temporarily releases its grip, you experience directly what all the scriptures have been pointing toward. You are not separate from God. You are in your essential nature, one with the infinite. And from that elevated perspective, ancestral karma looks like clouds passing across the sky, temporary phenomena that can neither touch nor diminish the eternal sun of your true self. The transformation begins not with grand dramatic gestures, but with the simple daily practice that Yogananda recommended to every sincere seeker: withdrawing the senses, calming the breath, focusing attention at the spiritual eye between the eyebrows, and entering the silence where God's presence can finally be felt. In those sacred moments of communion, you are not merely sitting quietly, You are consciously disconnecting from the karmic currents that have been flowing through your consciousness since birth. Currents that originate not just in your current lifetime, but in the unresolved actions and desires of ancestors, stretching back through countless generations. Each moment of deep meditation weakens the power of these inherited patterns and strengthens your identification with soul consciousness. Yogananda taught that karma governs human destiny only as long as a person continues living through the senses, reacting to external circumstances, and identifying with ego. The moment you shift into superconsciousness, the moment you experience even briefly the blissful expansion of awareness that comes when consciousness merges with the infinite, you access a dimension of existence where karmic law no longer holds absolute dominion. This is not escaping karma, but rather transcending it by rising to a higher octave of consciousness, where the soul's inherent freedom becomes experientially real, rather than merely a philosophical concept. The masters who have achieved this permanent state no longer accumulate new karma, because their actions arise not from egoistic desire, but from attunement with divine will. This attunement is the goal of all genuine spiritual practice, yet it remains tragically misunderstood by those who approach spirituality as another form of material acquisition. They want to use meditation to get better jobs, attract romantic partners, or achieve worldly success, not recognizing that these desires simply create more karma, more chains binding the soul to the wheel of reincarnation. Yogananda was clear: the purpose of spiritual practice is liberation, not improved circumstances within the prison of material existence. True healing of ancestral karma comes not from manifesting abundance or finding your soulmate, but from awakening to your identity as soul and recognizing that everything else, no matter how pleasant or painful, is ultimately a dream from which you must eventually awaken. The path requires surrendering what the ego considers most precious: the illusion of control, the addiction to specific outcomes, the belief that happiness depends on external circumstances. Your ancestors accumulated karma precisely because they could not surrender these attachments. They grasped at pleasure and pushed away pain, accumulated possessions and status, sought security in things that could never provide it, and died with their consciousness still trapped in the limited awareness of ego. Now their unfulfilled desires flow through you, whispering that you will finally be happy when you achieve this goal, acquire that possession, or receive validation from these people. But Yogananda revealed the liberating truth: happiness is your true nature, not something to be achieved, but rather something to be uncovered by removing the karmic debris that obscures it. Every time you choose meditation over distraction, every time you respond to difficulty with equanimity rather than reactive emotion, every time you serve others without expectation of reward, you are actively transmuting ancestral karma. You are demonstrating through your choices that the old patterns no longer control you, that you have awakened to a higher mode of existence. This is not easy work. The karmic currents are strong, reinforced by countless repetitions across multiple lifetimes, but you possess something your ancestors lacked: access to the teachings of a master like Yogananda, who illuminated the path with perfect clarity, and the spiritual strength that qualified your soul to incarnate, precisely when and where this transformation could finally occur. The moment of liberation approaches not when every trace of karma has been exhausted, but when your identification shifts permanently from ego to soul. Yogananda revealed that even advanced yogis may carry some residual karma, but it no longer causes suffering because they no longer identify with the limited self to which that karma belongs. They watch thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations arise and pass like weather patterns observed from a mountain peak, acknowledging these phenomena without becoming entangled in them. This detached awareness, cultivated through years of patient meditation practice, is the key that unlocks the prison of ancestral karma and reveals the freedom that has always existed within. Your ancestors could not give you this freedom because they did not possess it themselves. They passed down their unresolved karma not from malice but from ignorance, not understanding the spiritual laws governing existence. Many of them lived and died without ever questioning the reality of the material world, without suspecting that consciousness survives physical death, without recognizing that the soul incarnates repeatedly until it learns the lessons that lead to liberation. They were asleep within the cosmic dream, and their sleeping state produced karmic consequences that now manifest as your challenges, your tendencies, your unexplained struggles. But you have awakened enough to recognize the dream, and that recognition is the beginning of freedom. Yogananda taught that once a single member of a soul family achieves spiritual awakening, that liberation ripples backward and forward through time, benefiting ancestors who have already departed and descendants not yet born. This is possible because at the deepest level, time itself is an illusion, a construct of the dreaming consciousness. In the eternal present where the soul truly exists, your meditation today can release ancestral karma from centuries ago, and your attainment of superconsciousness can prevent future generations from inheriting the patterns you have finally broken. This is the magnificent power you wield, though the ego-identified mind cannot comprehend it because it remains trapped in linear material concepts of causation. The final barrier to this liberation is the subtle pride that whispers you must accomplish this transformation alone, that asking for divine help demonstrates weakness or dependence. Yogananda emphasized throughout his teachings that unconditional surrender to God is not passive defeat, but rather the activation of supreme power. The individual ego, no matter how determined or disciplined, cannot free itself from karma any more than a character in a movie can step off the screen. But when consciousness expands beyond individual ego and merges with the infinite, when you recognize that the divine power sustaining your breath, digesting your food, and beating your heart is none other than God working through you, then miracles become natural. The karma that seemed insurmountable dissolves like morning mist before the rising sun of divine presence. You stand now at the threshold of understanding that can transform everything. The healing you have desperately sought is possible, but not through the methods ego consciousness prescribes. It comes through the path Yogananda illuminated: daily meditation to experience your true nature as soul, cultivation of detachment from material outcomes, selfless service to others, and above all, developing the unwavering inner conviction that you are not this limited body-mind complex, but rather eternal consciousness temporarily inhabiting a physical form. Your ancestors could not complete their spiritual lessons, so they passed their unfinished work to you. Accept this sacred responsibility not as burden, but as opportunity, knowing that your liberation liberates them, your awakening awakens them, and your return to conscious union with God fulfills the deepest purpose of every soul that has ever walked this earth. The ancestors you never met still whisper through your bloodstream, their unfinished prayers becoming your inexplicable anxieties, their unfulfilled dreams manifesting as your restless nights. But now you understand what Paramahansa Yogananda spent his entire incarnation revealing: you are not here by accident, carrying burdens you did not create. You are here by divine appointment, chosen by your own soul, to be the one who finally breaks the chains. This is not the cruelty of cosmic law, but rather its magnificent mercy, offering you the supreme honor of being the liberator not just of your own consciousness, but of every soul that came before you, and every soul that will follow. The healing you seek has never been about fixing what is broken, but rather about remembering what has always been whole, the eternal divine self, that no karma can touch, no suffering can diminish, no illusion can obscure. Every moment you have spent searching for answers outside yourself, every disappointment when temporary solutions failed to bring lasting peace, every dark night when you questioned whether healing was even possible, has been preparing you for this recognition. The path Yogananda illuminated is not comfortable, because it demands you surrender the very identity you have defended for lifetimes, the ego structure that feels safer than the vast freedom of your true nature. But comfort is not what your soul came here seeking. It came seeking liberation, and liberation requires the courage to sit in meditation, when every fiber of your being wants to run, to observe inherited patterns without identifying with them, to feel the pain of ancestral wounds without becoming them, and to keep choosing consciousness over mechanism, until the light of your true self shines so brightly that all darkness dissolves in its radiance. The masters knew what modern seekers often forget: spiritual awakening is not a moment, but a practice, not a destination but a daily choice to remember who you truly are beyond the accumulated karma of countless lifetimes. When you sit tomorrow morning before the world intrudes with its demands and distractions, when you close your eyes and withdraw your attention from the endless noise of thoughts, you are not escaping reality. You are entering the only reality that has ever existed, the eternal presence of divine consciousness that has been patiently waiting beneath the surface of your awareness, watching the drama of karma unfold, while knowing that none of it can ultimately touch the invincible soul you have always been. This practice is your weapon against the accumulated suffering of generations, your key to the prison of inherited limitation, your bridge from the false self to the true self. Yogananda did not share these teachings so they could be intellectually admired and then forgotten, filed away as interesting philosophy, while you continue living mechanically. He shared them because he knew that souls ready for liberation were scattered across time and space, waiting for the message that would finally awaken them from the hypnotic dream of separation. You are that soul. The fact that these words resonate in the depths of your being, that something within you recognizes this truth even as the ego resists it, proves that your moment of liberation draws near. The ancestors who could not complete their journey placed their hopes in you, and the universe has conspired across lifetimes to deliver you to this precise moment when you finally understand that healing is not something you must earn through suffering, but rather something you claim by recognizing your eternal nature as divine consciousness, temporarily wearing human form. So the question that echoes beyond this moment is not whether you can heal, but whether you will choose to. Will you return tomorrow to the meditation cushion, or will the ego seduce you back into distraction? Will you observe the next wave of ancestral anxiety with detached awareness, or will you become it? Will you remember that you are the soul, or will you forget and identify again with the false self? The answer you give through your daily choices determines not only your destiny, but the destiny of everyone connected to your lineage across the eternal dimensions of time. This is the sacred responsibility and magnificent opportunity Yogananda placed in your hands. If this message has touched something deep within you, if you recognize yourself as the one who finally breaks these chains, let me know by leaving the word liberation in the comments below. Like this video if you are ready to step into your true power, share it with someone who carries ancestral wounds they cannot name, and subscribe to this channel because the journey of awakening has only just begun. The masters are calling you home, and every step you take toward liberation sends ripples of healing backward and forward through time, liberating souls who thought freedom was impossible, until you proved otherwise.